are alive and well in many ways, and that's not going away.
This is the North American Service broadcasting on 17.70, 15.42, 12.05.
How you will worship her together.
What have you done to its eyes?
You be the person sitting by the other voice.
The next time you're frightened in the dark, don't scream.
They are not what they claim to be. You're listening to Radio.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Kentucky.
Hello, Kentucky.
Coming at you live from Hellier, Kentucky.
Welcome back to Radio Grave. I'm here with Hellier.
I'm here with Kentucky.
And today, we're talking about not Hellier, Kentucky, I guess. Just kidding. We're talking about Hellier. So last week, we talked about the Kentucky Goblins, the Hopkinsville Kelly encounter, the Suttons being invaded by goblins from outer space who never attacked them, who were only trying to surrender, who only needed help. They crash landed. They needed assistance. And
They were only cats.
they were only cats and they were only owls, and they got shot at, and none of them existed or lived there or were anything or died. So
And everyone was drunk.
and everyone was
Even the
drunk,
children.
even the children. So this week we're going to be talking again about Kentucky, again about little things in Kentucky, little people in Kentucky who are mysterious and not supposed to be there, I guess, who aren't children. Maybe. Or maybe like people from like a TV show too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are talking about the Hellier emails, but we're also going to be reviewing the Hellier series. Pretty nebulous, like really vague opening. It's hard for me to like give an introduction to the Hellier emails because I feel like it is sort of a dumpster fire sort of topic to begin with. But it's like it's like deeply and directly associated with the Kentucky Goblins, and I like didn't see why we wouldn't cover it too.
I'm nodding.
But frowning.
No, it's just because we just watched Hellier and I was so fucking bored to tears we had to turn it off and just go record.
If you like super schlocky reality TV all about UFOs and the search for Bigfoot and ghost investigations, you might be familiar with the Newkirk couple. Greg Newkirk and Dana Matthews Newkirk are paranormal researchers with a presence across all media platforms. Everywhere they're basically known as Planet Weird. They have like a haunted objects podcast. They produced and directed multiple documentaries. They did Ghost Hunters Inc., which was like their show or like some docuseries that they did when they were young. The Bigfoot Hunter, still searching in 2011. They've been involved with a couple different TV shows. They did this show called Kindred Spirits. Greg Newkirk was a producer of Paranormal Lockdown. And I wrote a couple notes about Paranormal Lockdown because I think it's canceled now because it was like a huge nothing burger. It was hosted by Nick Groff, who was like the co-host of Ghost Adventures, who got exiled. And he was accompanied by another paranormal investigator. Her name is Katrina Weidman. And she was originally an investigator on Paranormal State, like fucking forever ago.
Yeah, that's the show that had Chip Coffee.
It had Chip Coffee in it, who still is a quote unquote psychic medium, but he does walkthroughs via telephone.
But he's dead.
No, Chip Coffee didn't die.
Yes, he did.
What?
Chip Coffee's been dead.
I'm talking about Chip Coffee and he's not dead and you're confused.
Chip Coffee dead.
We're sorry. Please remain on the line.
I swear to God he died.
He did not die.
I swear to God he died. He did die, and you and I have talked about it.
No, we have never talked about that. Because he didn't
I'm having
die.
a psychotic break.
What did you think he died of?
I swear to God, you and I have talked about Chip Coffee.
We've never talked about
dead.
We've never talked about him being dead.
And so that's why I was surprised that you didn't know.
Because we had a dream about it.
No, we sat in my bedroom watching TV.
When was this?
2017, 2018?
No, he wasn't dead then.
Well, apparently he's not dead now.
He hasn't, no, like, yeah.
Chip Coffey's dead.
No, he's not. Okay.
When this airs, he'll be, and that's not a threat. That's me manifesting. That's me manifesting the universe back into its proper timeline.
That's not
Something's
a threat.
wrong.
Okay, well, we'll see. You're going to close the rift?
I'm like scissoring all my fingers together, closing the rift.
Okay.
I swear to God.
So basically, yes.
Paranormal State sucked though.
Yeah. And it's totally defunct. It's totally forgotten. It's actually so defunct and forgotten that she has like rebranded herself as a medium herself. Like that she's a psychic medium, and like she wasn't. Like I don't think she is. Like she basically was on Paranormal Lockdown being like, this place gives me really, really bad vibes. I'm a psychic medium. And it's like, you're in a literal like 500-year-old prison in the dark for like 3 days. So like,
why would that feel
good? I think that doesn't, I think that's why you don't feel good. So, ay. And also, if you didn't know this, I don't know if you know this, Paranormal State disappeared because the lead investigator embezzled every fucking penny of their show's ticket sales because they were supposed to go on a paranormal tour, and he embezzled it and spent it all on opioids.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Isn't that fucked up? Yeah. His name is Ryan something.
I'm gonna look up Paranormal State host.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the most recent thing was 2016. Facing 2 felony charges related to theft and stolen property. Also facing misdemeanor charge of theft of services. Oh, he's in,
is he in jail?
He's in jail for killing Chip Coffey.
No,
no. Let me see. This is from last year. University of South Carolina counselor education graduate. From chasing ghosts to helping others fight inner demons. I think he's like an addictions counselor.
Oh, good for him. Damn. That's amazing.
Rest in peace, Chip Coffey. So sad.
That's crazy. Well, anyways, yeah, so.
Back to the Newkirks.
So.
Who, as far as I know, don't even do opioids.
Yeah, I know. Fucking don't even do
nerds.
opioids or anything.
How do you even find ghosts?
How are you even finding your inner demons, huh? Okay, so Greg Newkirk, he was involved with producing a ton of shit, but he also was involved with creating a few TV miniseries and docuseries too. But most importantly, Greg produced and starred in a series called Hellier in 2019. And in this series, Greg and his team take on a case outside of paranormal investigation. They investigate claims of extraterrestrial creatures living in caves in fucking, you guessed it, Hellier, Kentucky. Extraterrestrial creatures living in caves in Kentucky? Doesn't sound very familiar, actually. Said no one ever for the past like 40 years who's into ufology. So basically, it's an unusual case for a group of ghost hunters to look into. And how they came to know about the case is even more unusual, because it's not like they heard it through the grapevine. The Hellier emails case is something that fell into their lap. Can you tell me about that lap, that said lap?
Said lap. In April of 2012, Greg Newkirk was personally contacted by a man who claimed he and his family were being tormented. For context, in the mid-2000s, Greg used to host this website for the Ghost Hunters Inc. team. This was just like a jokey kind of paranormal group.
It was like his first paranormal group that he had, like, with him and his friends.
Yeah, and it eventually disbanded. By then, the site was just, like, not updated. It was unused. He now hosts a website called weekendweird.com. But back to the spring of 2012, Greg decided to check in on the Ghost Hunters Inc. email, just to, like, see if anything was in there. And it had been several months since he'd been on, and he saw that the Ghost Hunters Inc. email had messages in the inbox. And one email was titled, "Urgent help needed, please respond." Greg immediately opened the email, but was unprepared for what he was about to read.
Right. I'm going to do the voice. I'm going to try and do the voice, the Kentucky voice. My name is Dr. David Christie, I received your contact information through a mutual acquaintance who assures me you are well equipped to investigate peculiar problems. Furthermore, I believe you may have interest in these events beyond any compensation that I am prepared to deliver in order to have these issues sorted. For the past 6 months, I've been living in a rural home located on the border of West Virginia and Kentucky, where my family is nightly assaulted by creatures that I have come to believe are of an extraterrestrial origin. These beings appear to be the size and stature of a small child, devoid of any facial features, save for large oily eyes and lipless mouths. They frighten my children by peering through their bedroom windows, chirping at one another.
Chirping and gurgling. That's what alien communication sounds like.
They actively attempt to enter my home in the middle of the night. And last month, they took my dog. The police refused to provide any... That's like, we're just like... And then I'm like, yeah, his dog is done.
Oh, God.
The police refused to provide any further assistance, attributing the problem to wild animals and forwarding my complaints to the State Game Commission. I believe they are coming from an abandoned mine located on the edge of my property. Though I'm armed, I'm afraid that I'm far too frightened to enter the mine by my lonesome and cannot convince any sympathetic friends to accompany me, though I cannot blame them. I'm convinced that the only answer is to collapse the mine. Burn it down. Burn it.
That seems just like a little extreme.
No, it's not.
Just saying. Okay.
No.
Continue with your letter. I apologize.
No, you don't know who I am. I'm Dr. David Christie.
I don't know who you are.
I believe this is where we can be mutually beneficial to one another. If you are prepared to assist me in this matter, I can offer you permission to record and document these events under the conditions of my anonymity. I guarantee you evidence of these creatures, which I assure you are not wild animals. Please respond. Please respond ASAP. Thank you. ASAP.
Before we go on, it should be mentioned that it's unclear how available Greg's contact information was.
Yeah.
That creates issues later on, obviously. But anyway, Greg believed this email was a joke, but he responded anyways. He said, "Why are you emailing me?" He told the sender they weren't into UFOs. He didn't know anything about explosives for blowing up the mine. If the guy wanted help, he needed to elaborate more details, and he also needed to send evidence. He posted about the email on message boards and social media. Greg's colleagues tore the email to shreds. The trolling resulted in a satirical collective called the Alien Cave Task Force. Anyway, a day or so later, another email popped up in Greg's inbox.
Thank you for the prompt response. I do not blame you for being skeptical of my story. I appreciate you keeping an open mind about my situation, and I'm more than happy to provide you with as much information as I am able. I was given your contact information through a man by the name of Terry Wrist. When these disturbances first began occurring, I was only inclined to confide in a personal friend who I knew had fringe interests. He offered to share my concerns with a man that had dealt with somewhat similar experiences in previous years. I accepted his offer. Within a week, I was informed that this gentleman had long since retired from pursuits of this kind, but was willing to provide me with contacts who may be willing to help. This is how I came to contact you. I do not have any answer to why, other than a referral and recommendation from a gentleman I do not know personally. I was under the impression that you would answer that question. I'm located in Pike County, just outside the town of Hellier, Kentucky. Hellier is located roughly 30 to 60 minutes from the borders of Virginia and West Virginia, respectively. Most of Pike County is made up of small towns and rural communities. It is not uncommon to go days without seeing my closest neighbors. I moved to this area for the peace and quiet. I've received neither. I've lived in this area just under 7 months, and in that time, the majority of the harassment has occurred within the past 3. I did not become aware of any strangeness until early December, although that is only when I began to keep a record of these events. At first, it was merely strange tracks in the snow around my home, I had initially imagined that they were from some kind of animal that closely resembled a human footprint, minus the heel. And at that time, I was under the impression that it was simply a single creature. It wasn't until weeks later that I began to suspect that I was dealing with a number of what I thought were individuals hazing me upon my arrival to the area. At this point, I was incapable of keeping my dog outdoors overnight. Any attempt to leave her leash would result in her barking herself hoarse until she was allowed back indoors. In the weeks leading up to this particular evening, I had awoken to find my shed doors open on several occasions, many of my children's toys missing or moved, and my yard in general disarray. I had already given a report to the police, who were making it increasingly clear that they were not interested in my case, barring physical harm or large-scale theft. The second week of January, I'm having breakfast with my family when my 5-year-old daughter begins talking about the kids without hair. When my wife inquired about these kids, she informed us that she had spent the previous night watching them play in the yard. As you can imagine, that was of some concern. I asked my daughter what these kids looked like. She told me that they were bald like Grandpa and weren't wearing any clothes.
Like Grandpa.
Like Grandpa. The very same day, I found the wreath that hangs inside our rear porch stuffed into our mailbox. That's fucked up. Who would do that?
To a innocent wreath?
Yeah. I purchased and installed motion-activated floodlights the following day, and for a time, the problem ceased. It wasn't until the end of February that our daughter informed us that the bald kids had returned. I was awoken to the sound of my daughter screaming and rushed to her bedroom, only to meet her halfway down the hall. When my wife and I were finally able to calm her down enough to speak, she told us that the kids were trying to peer into her window, but they couldn't reach, and instead had taken to tapping on it. She hasn't slept in her own bedroom since. It was that morning that I phoned the police for the second time, and they responded by finally sending a trooper to our residence. I informed him of the regular mischief, how I was unable to let my dog outdoors after dusk, and of the bald kids. When we found the ground disturbed just under my daughter's bedroom window, the officer informed me, very matter-of-factly, that we were dealing with an animal, and I would be better off contacting the Game Commission than waste their resources any further. Almost every day for the following week, I would find some evidence that something or someone had been on my property the previous night. Smudges on the windows were not uncommon, stones from the walkway dragged to the other side of the lawn, and I had found tears in my screen door. Not the screen door.
That's how you know it's Kentucky.
Literally.
You got damage to your screen door? It's probably gobs.
He's probably gobs. Gobbling these nuts.
Got him.
Nice.
Got him,
I know. On Wednesday, the 7th of March, I finally witnessed the kids without hair for myself. The dog woke me up around 1:30 a.m., scratching at the back door and whimpering to be let out. I noticed that the motion floodlights were on and went to the kitchen window to check the shed doors were still closed. That's when I realized I could see the shadow of an individual cast across my lawn. From the angle I was positioned at the window, I could not actually see the source of the shadow or the floodlights. The dog was pacing circles around the back door, and I could hear someone rifling through a box on the porch. Filled with more anger than common sense, the only reaction I could muster was to bang loudly on the window and yell, at which point I heard the screen door on the porch swing open and slam against the house. I heard what I can only describe as chirping.
Yeah, what we were doing before.
Yeah, okay, that was chirping, yeah. It sounded much more like a skunk, if more guttural. What does a skunk sound like? Interesting. But much more guttural? He continues, I then realized that there were more than 2 people on my property, and the shadow, which had been reacting as if it didn't know which way to run, was quickly joined by another. For a moment, I watched as the shadows chirped at one another when I noticed a figure out of the corner of my eye. Standing in the flower bed just to the bottom left of my window was a small humanoid figure with sickly pale skin, completely hairless, standing roughly 4 foot tall. Yummy.
Dinner is on.
Sounds like a little grub. Like a little wax, like just take a little knife and just, it's like only cake.
Oh.
Is it alien or cake?
Well, when you said wax, I thought maybe it was like cheese. You peel the wax off and there's cheese inside.
Do you think this is cake or cheese?
Cheese.
I think it's
I wish it was cake. But I think it's cheese. Flour bed cheese.
Flour bed cheese. It was looking in the direction of the shadows that had clearly come from around the left side of the house, opposite the porch, and had not noticed me. As far as I could tell, this face was devoid of features, save for large round eyes, very reminiscent in shape and color of a bird's eye. It had no nose to speak of, and only a small slit for a mouth. It didn't appear to move its mouth as it chirped, sounding more as if the noises originated from its throat. It was most certainly not a wild animal, and even more certainly not a child. I was too terrified to move and watch as the creature hopped to the others. Together, they scrambled into the woods on the right side of the property. It was clear that there were at least 5 in the group. I've not mentioned this particular incident to my wife, and the only other person who I've spoken to about these creatures are yourself and the close friend who introduced me to our mutual friend, Mr. Rest. I would prefer to keep things that way, and to approach this problem as discreetly as possible. Since that evening, my dog has gone missing from the porch, yet to return, and I can only imagine that the disappearance has to do with these creatures. I've gone looking for him during daylight hours, only to find many of my missing belongings scattered at the entrance to an abandoned mine shaft at the far edge of my property. I don't dare go inside. My friend has convinced me that my experience is similar to that of other visitation experiences, providing me with material and references that back up his claims. I'm aware of the outlandish nature of what I've told you, but I'm afraid that I have no other explanation for what I have seen, at least at this time. I can see no other option than to seal the entrance to the mine. I cannot achieve this on my own, and I'm too frightened to try. I don't dare share this information with others for fear of ruining my career and my reputation of my family. I'm prepared to compensate your travel expenses and offer you unrestricted access with whatever recording equipment that you desire, but only on the condition of complete anonymity. Beyond that, I have no desire than to be rid of this problem. Please inform me of what you would like photographs of and where to send them. Thank you again. Although it was an intriguing story, Greg took it as just that, a story. However, Greg was perturbed by one specific detail. He didn't know anyone by the name Terry Wrist, nor did he know why Mr. Wrist had referred the doctor to Ghost Hunters Inc. for his ET problem. Once again, Greg wrote a response. He reiterated they were not ufologists, and he asked him for all evidence if it was real, and he required the evidence to be solid. He wanted pics, recordings, physical traces, anything. And even though it had nothing to do with the paranormal, he was eager to hear from Dr. David Christie again. And Greg waited and waited, but the doctor did not respond. And he grew suspicious by the sudden radio silence, and he began to assume that it was a hoax or a prank. And he also came to realize that the name Terry Wrist was probably a pseudonym, because also it's a play on words for terrorist. But still, he decided to Google Terry Wrist and see if he was maybe real. And he discovered there actually was a person named Terry Wrist, but only kind of.
If you enjoy our podcast, please rate, review, and consider becoming a patron by visiting patreon.com/radiograve. Your patronage and support helps us continue to make content for you. You can stay up to date with us by following our Instagram account @RadioGravePodcast, and be sure to tell all your spooky friends about us too. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show. Terry R. Wrist appears in 2 fringe books. The first one being The Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts from 1994 and The Secret Rituals of the Men in Black from 2005. Both books written by a man named Alan H. Greenfield. First off, Alan H. Greenfield is wild as fuck. He's an American writer and editor, but also he's an occultist, magician, ufologist, and proclaimed Gnostic bishop.
Yeah.
He's an original member of NICAP, which is the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. I think we've mentioned them before.
NICAP, of course.
He's super into ufological philosophy, parapsychology, the Kabbalah, so on. One thing is for certain, Alan H. Greenfield believes everything is connected. Quote unquote, connected. Like one big soup, as I would say.
Big soup.
as I have said. In both of Greenfield's books, Terry Wrist claims he is ex-military and therefore uses a pseudonym. That makes sense because he says weird, wild shit. In The Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts, Terry Wrist shares some strange claims. Allegedly, he was part of a covert military group. Specifically, the team consisted of Vietnam veterans. Their task was to secretly infiltrate and destroy underground alien bases. Allegedly, alien bases had been discovered in the southern U.S. The only entrances were through abandoned mines and cave systems. Some bases contained extraterrestrial refugees, quote-unquote. Some bases contained malevolent ETs, quote-unquote. Alan H. Greenfield, being the soup man that he is, theorized there was only one way to successfully make contact with these cave-dwelling alien beings, and that was through esoteric occult rituals and practices. Hence, the secret cipher of the Euphonauts. Is this why terrorist refer the Doctor to a group of paranormal investigators? Maybe. Several weeks later, Greg received another email. The email read,
My apologies for time. My apologies for time.
I'm so sorry about time.
My apologies for the time it has taken me to reply to your previous email. The situation at my home had become unbearable, and we chose to stay with my wife's family out of the state until an appropriate solution can be reached. I'm at my wit's end. This afternoon, my brother-in-law and I traveled back to the house for the first time in over a month, as I needed to check on the security of my property and gather some belongings. The house seems relatively untouched, leading me to believe that the creature's motives were driven by the presence of my family. As you requested, I brought a camera back to the property for the purpose of photographic evidence. While my home was free of tampering, I was able to find a trail of prints that matched the size and shape of those previously left by the creatures on my property. The prints led into the woods behind my home, following a stream that runs near the mine. My brother-in-law, an avid sportsman, cannot identify the tracks despite his skepticism. Perhaps you know of someone better suited to identify these prints. I'll be spending the next 2 nights in my home and will send you more images should the opportunity present itself. I'm looking forward to your thoughts.
Attached to this email was a series of photographs depicting a strange set of footprints left in the mud. So to describe the photos, the footprints were bipedal footprints. They had 3 round, fat toes, with the middle longer than the others. The ball of the foot was prominent, and the heel was somewhat missing. Basically, it was like a tiptoe footprint.
Yeah, like no heel.
Yeah, pressure on the ball of the foot, and nothing in the back. Most interestingly, the feet appeared to have dermal ridges. Dermal ridges are indentations formed by skin creasing. We have them on our hands, fingers, and feet. They're unique, none the same as another, just like fingerprints. Experts claim they are impossible to fake. The next day, Greg's inbox had another email from the Doctor, the weirdest of them all and the last he would ever receive.
So the final email read, The creatures came out of the woods late last evening. I've enclosed photographs taken to the best of my ability given the situation. I've also included photographs of the creature's footprints alongside a measuring stick. My brother-in-law is not as skeptical as he was when we arrived, and we will be leaving before dark this evening. I look forward to hearing back from you. So, the final foot photo indicated the prints to be half the size of a human's, 5 to 6 inches in length, and about 2.5 to 3 inches in width. However, it's the other photographs attached to the emails that are twice as compelling. The Doctor appeared to have captured the creatures on camera. So, okay, the first photo is really, really hard to make out.
Yeah, what is this?
It appears to be a giant head with a single almond-shaped eye, 2 unusual dark spots on top of part of the head, and there's no other discernible details.
I don't even see those things.
Yeah, this pic was subsequently thrown out due to its potato levels.
Yeah.
High potato levels. Now, the second photo is of the same head, but a side profile. The details are clear. It has the same large almond eye, a prominent cheekbone, and a clear jawline, a dark little circle where an ear might be, and it's argued the creature may have a pointy chin as well.
I see it.
Now, the last photo is the craziest because it appears to be a glowing figure peeking around from behind a tree. It has a large round head, big black eyes that are connected like goggles or like a spacesuit visor. And then there's unusual dark spots on the crown of the head. Like in that first picture, that's the only thing you can really see are the 2 dark spots on top of the head. Like indentations. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Maybe they hook into something.
Ooh.
Maybe that's where they mate.
Ew. Don't be nasty.
That's where they stick the suction cups.
Oh, fuck. So these final photos convinced Greg he needed to investigate the doctor's claims. But unfortunately, Greg was living in Toronto at the time. And he was in the process of obtaining Canadian citizenship, and he was unable to leave the country. So Greg responded to the doctor and explained he wanted to take on the Hellier case. However, he was barred from traveling in this situation. And he offered to fly the doctor to Canada, but once again, Dr. David Christie went cold, and he actually would never be heard from again. So Gred was crushed.
Gregory.
Oh, Gregory. But he couldn't let it go. So for several months, Greg and Dana researched from home. They looked more into Dr. David Christie and Hellier. They looked more into Kentucky and cryptids of the region, ufological history of the South. I don't know how deeply, though, because they finally landed onto the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. It's funny it took them so long to discover the Sutton's case. They have so many resources. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I saw, they're like very isolated in terms of their interest. Like they don't realize there are already communities for all these things. And that these communities overlap and share interests and share information. And then they're like, occultism and UFOs, those can connect? And it's like, yes.
Yeah.
Where have you been since 1970?
Yeah, literally.
Like, yes.
The idea of like everything being one big soup is a yes, it makes sense. But it's not a concept, like you said, that is new. You're just late to the party. So yes, the Hellier emails and the Sutton's case has obvious similarities. But there are also dissimilarities. And regardless, Greg and his team were fascinated. This was their first synchronicity. But there'd be more to come. So tell me about the next synchronicity, bro.
The next of so many. So many millions even.
Yeah.
In fall of 2012, Greg was granted Canadian citizenship. Wait. Synchronicity. I found one. The word Canada. The letter C. If you add a line to the C, it looks like a G. Do you know what starts with G?
Greg.
You know what else starts with G? Goblin.
Oh,
it's all lining up.
God.
Holy shit. Anyway.
Holy shit.
Greg was granted Canadian citizenship.
That October.
But yeah, that October, he and Dana, who's his wife and partner, they went south. He had not heard from the doctor and had moved on to another case. Their destination was Brown Mountain, North Carolina, located 170 miles from Hellier. Brown Mountain is similar to Mount Shasta. It's believed to be hollow. It's a hotspot for ufological activity and sightings, a hotspot for abductions and missing 411 cases. It's well known for causing unexplained booms.
Okay, so here's a good example. It's not a synchronicity that Brown Mountain and Mount Shasta are similar. But if I were the Newkirks, if I was Greg Newkirk, I would be like, that's so crazy. I read this article about the city of Lemuria in Mount Shasta, and now I'm at Brown Mountain, and Brown Mountain has ufological activity and sightings and abductions and missing 411s and unexplained booms. And that's so crazy. That's a synchronicity. I just figured that out.
Yeah,
I put those two things together. No one's ever done that before. It's not a synchronicity. Everybody already knows. I'm glad that
you're not making connections.
My thing is that I'm glad that you're excited about it. Be excited about it, but don't act like you're the first person to discover this.
Yeah, be excited that it all clicks together. Like, it is a really cool thing, but
and it does click together.
He's the Columbus of synchronicity.
Literally, someone's already been doing this for ever.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fucking Greenfield.
Yeah, I mean...
John Keel.
One of many, yeah.
They talk about John Keel a lot in the series, too. And John Keel's been doing this for fucking ever.
So, they're going to Brown Mountain, North Carolina. Greg, Dana, and their guide / fellow investigator, Micah Hanks,
who's very handsome in the show from 2016.
It is Micah, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I write Mike.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant.
They went up to Brown Mountain to investigate and to, quote, hopefully get abducted by aliens.
Nice.
Like, you sound dumb, dude. Like, not to be crass. It's being like, I sure hope I get fucking raped. Like, don't be fucking stupid. Anyway.
Yeah, abduction is, like, very, like, serious.
Yeah, that's not really shows how much salt you put into abductee stories, but okay.
Abductees or anything that's ufological. Actually, that's a really, really good point. To be like, haha, let's make a joke. Maybe we'll get abducted by aliens.
It's like, yeah, if you actually believed in abduction, you wouldn't fucking make that joke. But
I hope I never meet an alien in my life.
I always, because I think about it sometimes, I'll be like laying in bed and I hear a noise and I'm like, God, I hope if it's an alien that this gets out of my memory as fast as possible.
Yeah, well,
I think that all the time.
We might be getting abducted. We just don't know it. Ooh, it's all gone.
And I'm glad.
Yeah.
I don't want to fucking know.
Yeah.
If I don't know, it's fine.
That's fine. Sorry I triggered you.
No, it's okay. It's just fucking annoying.
That I triggered you or?
No, what they said.
Oh, okay.
No, I live in a triggered state, bro. Don't worry about it.
You're like, yeah, you're being really fucking annoying. Stop triggering me.
Shut up and get off the mic. This is my show now.
You're like, I don't want to get abducted or raped. Okay.
It's just for like 2 hours, me talking about it. So while they're on this adventure up to the mountain, Micah Hanks tells them something very interesting. Allegedly, Micah had been told, quote, a UFO researcher from the region had been informed by a psychic that an extraterrestrial military base was hidden within Brown Mountain. And Micah just so happened to know where the entrance to this cave was located. They hiked for a while, and to their amazement, they eventually arrived at the alien cave. They could not deny the connections between psychic claims of underground military alien caves, Terry Risk claims of underground military alien caves. In one book, Terry does claim that Brown Mountain had a cave. And Dr. David Christie's belief that creatures were coming from the caves. There were too many synchronicities to ignore. On February 4th, Greg received an email from a sender he was not expecting.
Why did you stop when you were so close? I have something for you. 1 week. Wrist.
But what if it's a different wrist? What if it's like Thomas' wrist?
Okay, then let me reread it. Why did you stop when you were so close?
That's Tommy.
I have something for you. I want it. 1 week. Thomas wrist. XOXO Thomas wrist.
With a little kiss. Lipstick kiss. A week later, Greg got a second email. It read,
Hellier was just a symptom. The ink and black are isolated still, and third order is MIA. Bear in mind, for every door closed, a window must be opened. The door is closed. Use the numbers. Wrist.
It's a weirdo email. But along with the email was a paper with GPS coordinates. He emailed a picture of a paper? Is that what I'm to understand?
Yeah.
What a fucking nerd. Just type them out.
Yeah.
Boomer ass.
I know.
God. Anyway.
Also, okay, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. In Hellier.
The show.
Hellier the show. Mm-hmm. They show the picture of the GPS coordinates written out. Mm-hmm. So Greg takes it and he puts it on their social media and they say, does anyone know what this is? Is this code? And someone's like, that is a credit card number. So he's like, oh shit. And he takes it down. And it takes them a while to figure out that they're GPS coordinates, that they're latitude, longitude coordinates.
How can you not tell the difference between a credit card number and coordinates?
I don't know. I just like don't know. It's weird, right? Like I just feel like I would look at that and like not necessarily just put it immediately on social media. I'd like show it to like Zach. I'd like show it to you. I'd like look at it myself and be like, what are these? I would even maybe go to my computer and type in all the numbers.
No way.
And see if they meant something, or even look to see if it's like a code. Yeah. Well, I mean, they eventually found out that it was.
After posting it on fucking social media without looking anything up at all.
I don't want to be mean, but I'm just like, why? I don't know. I think that maybe they're about content.
You know what? Godblin works in mysterious ways.
My thing is that like, if they were faking this, which we'll talk about, they do a lot of things that I think are not very like intelligent. And I think that they would avoid doing those things to make themselves not look as bad. So I feel like this is one of those things that kind of goes to show that like, I don't think they're faking this. I think that this...
Because it is so dumb.
Because it's like, yeah, like if you knew that they were GPS coordinates, you would just ignore people being like, that's a credit card number.
Yeah.
Because you know it's not.
In your fabricated story, you would be smart enough to know. You would want to be. Or, I mean, we'll get into it later. Never mind. Along with the email was a paper with GPS coordinates. The coordinates led to the mouth of the cave on Brown Mountain.
Yeah.
Where they ended up.
The place where they went with Micah Hanks.
Yeah.
That the
psychic said that
right.
aliens were down there.
And then Terry Wrist was like, hey, go to the coordinates, follow the numbers, open the window. And they're like, oh my fucking God, it's Brown Mountain. You don't think that Micah wrote that email?
There's no way.
You don't think that psychic read that?
There's no way.
You don't think that psychic read that book from fucking 1994? Or like the Men in Black book from fucking 2005? Like...
Those are very obscure ancient texts. You can't get a hold of those.
You know, after looking more into Micah Hanks, like he's a big time ufologist. He's written like 4 books. He has a podcast. Like he knows these things. He knows all this shit.
You have a boner for him too.
No, not anymore. He looks like the guy from Split. What's his name?
Oh God, James McAvoy.
He looks like James McAvoy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying not to get like irritated by it, but it's. I guess this is just kind of turned into an evil airwaves, like fucking just like tearing this shit apart, aren't we?
Fucking do it. I mean, yeah. They're not great, and I feel like it's fine to comment on because the context is this real? Is this not?
Yeah.
And how does this connect to blah blah? Why do the connections matter?
Well,
so it's fine.
And I always get irritated when people would take something like this and then directly connect it to the Hopkinsville Kelly encounter and say, these are the same things, this is connected, this is blah, 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 blah. And you can think that, but I'm just saying that the person who's presenting this to the public
has an angle.
Yeah. And the angle is, we already know all this stuff. Maybe people who are paranormal investigators don't know. Maybe people who are only into ghosts don't know. You know, maybe people who just found out about Mothman don't know. Maybe if you're like 13 and you're really into this stuff, you don't know. Yeah. And that's totally fine. It's okay to not know. I think what irritates me the most is to not know and then treat everyone who watches your content like they're fucking stupid. And like you can convince them of things having synchronicities or things being real when they're not. Because then later in the series, they're connecting things and saying things and doing things that aren't, to me,
aren't valid.
And then they're like making it out to be things that are real. Like for instance, they do this EVP thing where they have a spirit box on and then like he has the things on his eyeballs.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he listens and then he says stuff out loud.
Yeah.
One of the guys, and he says something, you know, he's just saying stuff and then he's like, I just had a vision of a tin can. I don't know why a tin can just came up into my thought. Oh, that's so crazy. Tin can. And then 4 episodes later, they go into an abandoned cave that they were able to find. And the only thing that's in the cave is rocks and a tin can. And that's a synchronicity.
So Greg and Dana decided to go back down to the American South. They came to the genius knowledge that this region had an extensive history of supernatural and unexplainable events. So they're in search of answers. They interviewed Geraldine Sutton Stith about the goblins in Hopkinsville. Geraldine was a source that you used in the Hopkinsville episode.
Yeah, the daughter, Lucky's daughter.
Yeah, so kind of cool that they got to talk to her. And then locals shared stories of the, quote, little white men of Kentucky. Which, like, yeah, Kentucky's full of white people. Stop.
Oh my God.
Synchronicity. One local would tell of an incident with these little white men. One story from 1999 is from eastern Kentucky. 14-year-old Donald Patton was playing on his family's property. He spent the afternoon throwing rocks in a boulder field. Donald's cousin Eric was usually playing with him, but not that day. Around 7 p.m., Donald sat down on a rock to rest. He heard his father calling out to him, "You boys get back in here, it's getting late." So Donald started walking down to the house. His father called out again, "Eric, get down here." Don asked, "Why are you calling for Eric? I'm alone." The father replied, "Then who were the two people standing behind you?" Which is like, ugh.
Yeah.
Donald's dad said he had seen two children standing behind him as he sat on the rock. He described them as around 3 to 4 feet tall, dressed completely in white. The two children immediately ran away after he called out. He watched them run into an old outbuilding on the edge of his property. He would say, "They were standing there. They were standing there." They were standing there looking right down your shirt collar.
Ugh. That I hate that. Be like, "Who are you talking to, Dad?" And he's like, "I'm talking to the person who was staring right down your shirt collar."
Yeah,
that's how close
the person
they were.
was like right behind you, looking down your shirt.
Like
Looking
that's
down
how
the back of your shirt. Like,
that's how close they were to you.
yeah, I don't like that. I'd be really yuckied.
Yeah, it's a yucky thing to say.
So back to Greg and Dana. A wandering local child in Cave City, Kentucky claimed...
Oh my God, Cave City?
Wait, are you synchronizing what I'm synchronizing?
Why would they call it...
Are you syncing what I'm syncing?
Why would they call it Cave City? I've never heard of caves in Kentucky. That's...
So a wandering local child in Cave City, Kentucky, synchronicity, claimed her family had seen monsters before. She explained she knew the monsters came out of the caves.
What?
So, what?
My
Anyway.
eyes roll back in my head.
Frothing in the mouth. They asked her to draw the monsters, and she drew 3-toed beings with pointy ears. She drew 3-toed beings with pointy ears, similar to the goblins. So,
how did this child know to draw a 3-toed alien being with pointy ears? That's like pretty much exactly the same as the goblins from the 1955 Sutton case. Is it not? That happened? Where's Cave City? How close is that to Hopkinsville? Could they be connected by a cave? A 600-mile cave, maybe? Like the largest cave system in the world that we know of?
probably not, no. Well, you're rabid.
Could it be, I don't know, maybe that there was like this underground like group of species that was highly disturbed by centuries of coal mining, and it forced them out of their homes, and they had to live on the ground above the caves, and they just terrorize everybody.
No. Anyway.
Okay. Sorry, I'm like, I don't know.
So they returned to Hellier after Cave City. And the locals were like, "You're here, you're back." And they spilled
cave hunter.
everything.
Literally.
They claimed a Bigfoot, making claims of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Which are very common in Kentucky.
Oh, they say there's like tons of cave book. Bigfoot.
We're like having aneurysms.
There's tons of Bigfoot shit in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
All the I've shared tons of stuff from that Bigfoot Instagram. Mm-hmm. Those two guys that only talk about Bigfoot, they're Kentucky.
Oh,
all
okay.
of those are Kentucky Bigfoot videos. They're from Kentucky. I'd love to talk to them. I shared like one of their videos once because it was like really ridiculous. Like it was the one where he was being carried away. He's like, "What does this picture look like to you?" And he's like, "Obviously it's a Bigfoot that's being carried away by a helicopter." And they literally saw it and they liked it. I'd like to talk to those guys though. I want to talk about Bigfoot with them.
That'd be cool.
That'd be fucking sick.
You should see if you could interview them.
Oh, that'd be so fucking cool. Actually, yeah, maybe I will just hit them up. I'd love that. That'd be so cool.
So yeah, there were Bigfoot claims. There were, quote, little thingies running in front of cars, strange tracks on the property, lots of lights in the sky and UFOs and all kinds of shit. In fact, a local of Pike County named Alan Epling snapped photos of a UFO. Allegedly, this UFO hovered in the air for over 2 hours. Alan was an amateur astronomer, and he got his footage on the news. When Greg showed the pictures of the tracks and creatures to locals, they were stunned but not surprised. Locals identified the tracks in the photos were not left behind by an animal. Interestingly, they identified the tracks weren't left in mud, but in mine slurry. It's also known as coal sludge, a hazardous liquid waste produced during the mining and processing of coal. However, when asked, none of the locals knew of a Dr. David Christie. But, Dr. David Christie's probably pseudonym, huh?
Yeah. And
I mean,
like,
if he wants to be anonymous, why would he? It's me laying my head on the mic.
and what's worse about this is this first time that they go to Hellier, like when they're talking to people, locals right now, they went driving around Hellier and they were driving onto people's properties and down private roads. They were because they were trying to find where Dr. David Christie lived.
It's not a good idea.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
I wouldn't do that ever. Even in my fucking tourist town that I live in, I would not do that.
You just don't do that because that's just not what you do.
No.
You just don't do that. And they do end up finding like an abandoned house where they're like, look, there's Christmas lights up. And there's like, oh, this makes sense. Like that looks like a kitchen window that looks out into a yard. Like maybe this is the place. And it's like,
what the fuck are you
you are
talking about?
parked outside of a person's house that's out in the middle of the fucking woods in Kentucky.
Maybe
like,
don't approach that house. In fact, you should probably go.
You should probably just leave. I'm going to be as like gentle about this as possible. Because I know that like Kentucky has a lot of fucking problems and a lot of generational trauma. So they were there for the second time and they were at the same gas station trying to talk to locals, and they had locals coming up to them and telling them, if someone tells you that they know something, don't follow them. Like just watch, like you can't, like don't trust these people. Like if someone tells you, oh, come out to my property, oh, I'll show you this cave in the woods, oh, we'll do this, oh, we'll do that, like they're going to do something to you. Like, you guys just need to be careful. Like, why are you here? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, you are like, no. And, I mean, it makes sense. I feel like it's a little strange to just be showing up in an old coal mining town where nobody fucking lives. There's literally a bar and a pizza shop that is half a convenience store. Yeah. Nobody has any teeth. And everybody's walking up to you saying, what are you doing here? Who are you? Why are you filming? Like, are you new to this?
Yes.
Like,
they pioneered this, so yes.
And then they're like, hey, do you know Dr. David Christie? And they're like, do you fucking have anything you want to tell me or want to give me?
Do you have any cash on you?
Like, what is stopping someone from doing anything they want to you?
Yeah, you're out in the middle of nowhere. What are you doing?
Like, your reality that you live in Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, or in Toronto is not the reality of Hellier, Kentucky.
No.
Stop. But yes, Dr. David Christie is a pseudonym. He never existed as Dr. David Christie.
Thank you for clarifying, because I didn't know that. So, after all this investigation, they felt they needed to solve this mystery. Okay. It had been placed in their laps, basically. All these synchronicities, everything was connecting right onto their crotches.
Onto their crotch.
So Greg and Dana launched the Hellier investigation and filmed the entire way. Because they're like guerrilla filmmakers. You know what I mean? Like they're just like on the ground, fucking doing it, like learning everything. Like all this secret connections. So pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah. And just like, here's the thing. If they're actually getting these emails, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, totally.
And I love that. If I got emails like that, I'd be fucking balls deep, balls in. Mm-hmm. I'd be fucking going all the way because that's pretty fucking amazing. If this is happening, why would you not be doing baseline research to find like the right people to talk to?
Well, the thing is, maybe they think if only all these other researchers would connect,
maybe I'm too like uptight about this, because they could very well honestly be like, yeah, we already know all this shit, but this is money, baby. So you're gonna love this.
Oh my God, spoilers though.
Spoilers. At the end of this season, they think to themselves, they're in Kentucky. They're in Hellier. They can't find the old house that they were looking for. The locals won't really work with them. They're trying to find caves. They're trying to find everything they can. They're just hitting all these dead ends. They have like the can situation happening. They have the EVP thing with the spirit box happening. So they're just, it's all leading nowhere. It's a nothing burger, right? Then they think to themselves, oh, big brain moment. The emails. What if we just tracked the IP of the emails we received from Dr. David Christie? That's a good idea. The IP of the emails landed them in Ajax, Ontario, which is a town that is 45 minutes outside of Toronto.
So is that Kentucky? Or?
No, it's Toronto.
Not Kentucky.
So no, it's Toronto, where Greg and Dana live.
Damn.
And they're like, oh my God, that's terrible. Who's messing with us? Who would do this to us? I'm just like, well, the question is, was it all a hoax? And I just don't think so. I don't think that they're capable of hoaxing, because if this was a hoax, it's the worst hoax that's ever existed ever. That they write their own emails in and then make themselves look like asses for 5 episodes, only to like out themselves as sending the emails from an IP address that's within 45 miles of their own home.
Unless it's a double fool.
Unless it's a double fool.
Where they're like, yeah, we wouldn't do that. That'd be stupid.
I don't know. Oh, it's so frustrating because it's so dumb. I mean, also, it's just like, wouldn't you just do that first? First? Like, why would you not just do that first? And then, of course, they're like, well, maybe it's a VPN. Okay. And they're like, if he's a doctor, it might be a VPN, because what if he's using Wi-Fi at work, like at a university or a hospital? Okay. I don't know what to say to that.
I'm sure.
So,
sure, why not?
This is what I think, briefly. This is my conclusion. This is how I'm wrapping it up. 1, I think that Dr. David Christie is a real person, but his name is not Dr. David Christie.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
2, the friend he confided in with fringe interests, this Dr. David Christie, could have been Alan Epling, the astronomer from Pike County who was on TV, who had all the UFO pictures and shit.
Okay.
He was very animated about the UFO and was very positive that it was a UFO and was very open-minded and very involved in this interview. 3, Alan Epling could have referred him to, quote, a man that had dealt with some similar experiences in previous years. And this person could have been Terry Wrist. However, we know Terry Wrist is also a pseudonym. If there is anything to keep in mind, ufologists love to use pseudonyms. Like, that's just who they are. Why would Terry Wrist refer the doctor to paranormal expert Greg Newkirk? Because of Alan H. Greenfield's book, The Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts. It's all about using occult communication to contact ETs. Mm-hmm. Thus, contact Greg Newkirk. He's so great at communicating with the dead, I guess, but he also investigates other supernatural mysteries, etc. But Greg's Scooby-Doo gang is like meh at ufology. Dr. David Christie very well could have had these beings on his property. He took the photos, he sent in the pictures. They're pretty convincing, some of them more than others. I think the footprints are kind of interesting because of the dermal ridges. Mm-hmm. They look, I don't know how they'd fake those. Mm-hmm. Then the local saying, yes, that is actually not mud. That's mine slurry. My whole family's been in coal mining for years. We know what toxic fucking coal slurry looks like, and that's what that is. Mm. Like, there are a lot of things that make sense. There are a lot of things that come together there. His name just isn't Dr. David Christie. It's all connected. We all know that. Blah. Like, that's it. I like don't even know what else to say. I'm like trying to be nice, but I can't. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like in general, I don't care about their story. Because they're so unlikable that I just can't be bothered to fucking care. But I think they come off so unlikable that I am not apt to believe their story. I am more inclined to think they're faking it for attention or clout because that's all they're doing in their documentary.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that they are at all qualified to take this on because I don't know why someone would reach out to them. Half of their careers, they didn't take anything seriously anyway. Why would you put the well-being of your family and your property in their hands?
Right.
And trust them to keep you anonymous? Obviously, you don't. It's like, I'm not inclined to believe anything they say. There might just be no proper thought put into this. You might be stupid enough to do this double fake that's just dumb and think people will believe it. That's what I'm thinking.
I also have to take into consideration Greg Newkirk produced that paranormal show, Paranormal Lockdown, with Nick Groff and Katrina Weidman.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that if you are smelling your own farts for long enough and getting enough smoke blown up your ass for long enough, you will go from being a girl in college who likes to investigate ghosts to being a TV medium.
Yep.
Like, I watched that show when I was fucking 11, and she was not a medium then. The only mediums that they had on was fucking Chip Coffee and that one bitch who, the fucking Conjuring, what's her name?
Oh.
She's not real either.
Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not a real anything either. And you can fight me on that.
I don't care about them.
I don't think a single psychic medium will say that the power of God is the only thing that will take care of anything. So, I mean, she's just not real. So, and she's dead and in hell. Like,
And she's old and she's ugly.
and she's old and ugly.
She's dried up.
She's had this same hairstyle for like a billion years. It's like, girl, move on. You're not fucking, you don't have to be.
They made a wig of it and put it on her skull in the grave.
No fucking
She
way.
had it forever.
Jesus. So, I mean, it's just like when you're around people all the time that are going to feed into that, where they're going to make you think that you thought about a SpaghettiOs can for a split second because you're hungry.
And then you saw
And then
one
you saw a
later.
can like 2 months later inside of a cave, and you connect those things as being a connection. You're going to find a connection in everything. And everyone around you is like validating that for
Yep.
you. And the thing is that like, I do think that someone was sending them these emails. I just don't know who.
Fair, yeah.
And the photos that are sent in, like the footprints, I think the tracks are really intriguing.
I like the figure
The
pictures.
fig-
Those are neat. Yeah.
The looking around the corner. The thing is that with the face and then the head, the two round things on top of the head, what the fuck is up with that?
Receivers of some kind.
It's fucking
An orifice.
weird.
I don't know.
It's fucking weird, right? And it's like, why the fuck would it have those?
Well, if you made up an alien, wouldn't you just make something up?
I think but how they're not the creative enough to make that up.
Could have had a friend make it up.
That's true.
They're like, hey, can you come up with an alien that's like, it looks like an alien, but it's like kind of different? Like one that people haven't seen before? Like maybe like take inspiration from like a goblin. You know what I mean?
Does that look like a goblin to you?
Here's like half a bottle of opioids. Payment.
It's fucking
Go for it.
It's fucking Brian.
It's Ryan Buell or whatever. Yeah.
Oh,
He's like, I got this.
he's like, I'm
And
gonna
they're-
steal.
Theft of services. What? Yeah, I don't know. I wish they were a little more compelling so I'd give a shit, but
It's tough. I mean, it's entertaining in a sense where I think that the Hellier emails are really fucking cool.
it's interesting, yeah.
And the photos are cool and the story is cool, but the people who are handling it,
I wish it didn't involve them because I would care more.
and the thing is that it wouldn't exist without them, which is the most fucked up thing because they're the ones who it was sent
Receive
to.
the emails, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Newkirks, don't sue us, please. There's not slander. We're not saying you did or didn't do anything.
I mean, what is there to sue? I don't have any money.
Oh, that's true. You should see my credit score. It's amazing and not in the good way.
Criticism aside, you're a successful group of people. I understand you have to compete. You have to continue to be successful. Like,
Might I recommend doing it with a little humility?
no, that's like telling Zach Bagans that he has to be more humble.
Zach Bagan's ego is endearing. Okay?
It's because
He's a lovable... He's like Gaston, and he's lovable for it.
he's like neurodivergent.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. I like when he reads his poems. on
And
the
slips
show.
and on ice and
Yeah.
eats shit.
Oh God, yeah. No, Zach Bagans is lovable.
He really likes
for his
poetry.
flaws. Okay, maybe not even flaws. They're quirks. These two, I just don't like them personal level. That's all.
The last thing that I really wrote in this document was masters of building something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And then I said, literally me.
It's a little different with you. They're conjuring things out of nothing. You're creating things out of pieces.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to this Shallow Grave episode.
Because we're shallow.
Because we're shallow.
We'll catch you next time for... Is the next one a shallow grave?
Nope. Next week is Christmas.
Oh, so then not a shallow grave.
Not next week, not the week after, but the week after.
Damn.
Because we're taking 2 weeks off.
My birthday?
Yeah. Christmas and your birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll catch you
Anyways.
after that. I'll be 60.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tom. Happy birthday to you.
That was beautiful. Oh, God. Bye.
Bye.
Scary.
At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere. It is speculated that these objects are of extraterrestrial origin. The broadcast will quiet at this time for your safety. Continue to carry out the following instructions.
Radio Grave Podcast is hosted by Amber Byland and Dominique Makasuya. Music courtesy of AOA Music, Carl Casey at Whitebat Audio, and intro music by Simon Big Byland. Audio mixing and editing by Amber Byland, logo and original art by Dominique Makasuya. Special thanks to Selma and Obi Henneke, Austin Smith, and all our supporters on Patreon. All other media and sound clips used are protected under fair use and are for the purpose of criticism, commentary, news reporting, education, and research. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.